Hello everybody, my name is Alexis Rodriguez and I'm here to talk about the Guildford 4. This was a case in Britain where a large injustice was served to presumably 4 innocent people. To start this off, we must discuss what happened on a Saturday night in 1974. 2 bombs went off that night. One went off at a horse and groom pub, and the other 35 minutes later went off at the Seven Stars pub. This occurred in 1974. The bomb attacks in Guildford and Woolwich were among the most high-profile atrocities carried out by the IRA at the height of its bombing campaign in Britain. Now, the purpose of the IRA was to have the living standards in Britain diminished, and to have them in a way in which people, the citizens there, would ask their military not to be in Ireland anymore, sort of to force their hand off that territory, because Ireland wanted to be independent. So there you go. Anyways, back to the case. A device at the Horse and Groom pub in Guildford killed 5 people, 4 soldiers, and a civilian, and left more than 100 people injured. The opening attack in a new IRA offensive on the mainland as a part of a redoubled effort to drive the British out of Northern Ireland, as I discussed before. 4 soldiers and 1 civilian were killed. Willis further 57 were injured. Now, these attacks weren't small; they were pretty big, especially in a packed pub, especially in those days. Okay, 4 people: Gary Colin, Paddy Armstrong, Paul Hill, and Carol Richardson. Now, these are the Guildford 4. These are the people that were suspected of the bombings without inclusive evidence. Now, these people were arrested in 1974, around the time when the bombs went off, and jailed the following year for life for the bombings. So they were arrested that year, but then charged the next year for life for the bombings. Okay, and they became known as the Guildford 4. In October 1989, the Court of Appeal quashed the sentences of Guildford 4 amid doubts raised about the police evidence against them. Now, what the police did with these people was they essentially tortured them to the point where they admitted to the bombings, even though they may have not done it. The torture was like so bad that the only way they could stop it was to just admit to a crime they could have not have done. So this is why this case became really publicized, and a lot of people wanted justice for these 4 individuals, because they honestly could be innocent. So an investigation was had, because people wanted justice over this. They wanted to find the real culprits, not some people picked out of the blue. Now, these people, Guildford 4, I believe it was Paul Hill. Paul Hill had no association with the IRA. They had friends in the IRA. But that was enough to put the blame on them, unfortunately. An investigation into the case by Avon and Somerset police found serious flaws in the way Surrey police handled the case, considered to be the biggest miscarriage of justice in Britain. Imagine that. The legislature, through the implementation of the Terrorism Prevention Act in 1974, conferred onto police wide powers of arrest and detention, particularly extending to a period of time officers could lawfully detain accused persons without charge. So what they could do, presumably, is arrest people without any charges. They just could arrest them, take them to jail without any specific reason, just for suspicion. Imagine that. In all, the Guildford Four and the Guildford Four and the McGuire Seven were the collective names of the two groups of people whose convictions in English courts in 1975 and 1976 for the Guildford pub bombings of October 5th, 1974, were eventually quashed after long campaigns for justice. The Guildford Four were convicted of bombings carried out by the Provisional Irish Republic Army, which is the IRA, and the McGuire Seven were convicted of handling explosives found during the investigation into the bombing. Both groups' convictions were eventually declared incorrect and unsatisfactory and reversed in 1989 and in 1991, respectively, after they served 15 to 16 years. Okay, so these people already served 15 to 16 years in jail for a crime they did not commit. Without substantial evidence, they had no evidence. All they had was their connections to some IRA people, and the fact that the police could point the blame on anyone they wanted to and put them in jail. And these people were tortured again. These people were tortured into admitting that they did the bombings. So, you take it as it is. Thank you for listening. And nice talking.